Hi, hello, and welcome back to another episode of Now What Was I Talking About? I, don't- I literally said that. I was like, wait, is that what this is called again? Whew, my memory has been fucking with me. But, that's what happens when you got ADHD or whatever. Whoa. Yay. Anyway. Whew. So we're going really low tech today. I'm recording on my phone. I am laying down. It is the night before hand that this will post. Yeah. Anyway, so welcome back to my pod. Now, what was I talking about? I'm V Noir, and this week, I'm trying to keep it short. It's like Christmas or whatever. It's a holiday. Funny enough, is it funny? I guess not. I don't know. I never celebrated Christmas, but I am tired. I never celebrated Christmas growing up. I am tired in general because I was working and then also trying to do this like film final, and I just need a break. Honestly, just need a break in general, where I just do nothing for like 2 weeks. I mean, the first week will be doing nothing. The second week will be doing something. You just create that nice, lovely balance. But, so because busy, I, again, wasn't really able to watch any shows or anything like that. So, I wasn't able to catch any of What We Do in the Shadows, which did its final season, and it even, at this point, also released its final episode, and I'm like, oh, series finale. I gotta catch up to that. And I also just watched Nosferatu on Christmas, which I'll talk about. I'm gonna talk about the things that I watch in order. I mean, I only really watched Wicked, and then I watched Nosferatu. Yeah. I think I paused on Columbo because I was like, whew. Again, like I was saying in the last episode, it's like following around these insufferable people. I just want to see Columbo being all like, well, I don't know, you guys. I feel like you could have did it, but I'm not sure. He's so funny. He's just a dude. But speaking of insufferable people, so I saw Wicked, which I have no history with this as a musical. I knew of it, but I don't know. I'm just not one to listen to Broadway, recorded Broadway albums on their own without the visuals. I just don't do that. I guess for me, because I feel like it's a whole package situation. I want to see the choreography, the different artistry, with the makeup, costumes and everything. Like, I want to see everything that gets put into it. And I think I would listen to the album if I was already a fan of, like, the stage musical. Like, oh, I've already seen it and I just love this, so I'm going to listen to it a ton of times. But in general, I'm not, like, a theater gay. So I just don't have a relationship to theater in that way. I mean, I kind of wish I did, though. I'm like, it sucks that they've just keep taking and taking and taking things like the arts and stuff out of, like, public schooling, because, like, my school didn't really have, like, a art department or theater or anything like that. But I'm like, if they did, I probably would have been a theater gay, because I truly enjoyed, like, people who are skilled in that way, that can sing and dance at the same time, who are talented in that way, you know? It's like watching I meant to bring this up last week, but I don't think, or last episode, not last week, because that was definitely like 2 weeks ago. But I've been on, like, a Bob Fosse sort of kick of just, like, trying to understand who he was as a person more, and eventually I'm going to do a deep dive into, like, all of his movies that he created, because I was watching a documentary, because I don't think I brought that up last time. Oh yeah, I don't think I did, because I was like, oh dang, I forgot to talk about those. Because I went on that tangent about heretic and religion. But yeah, his life was definitely fascinating, and because I was also trying to get into, like, just understanding vaudeville as, like, a thing back in the day. I mean, obviously it was a form of entertainment, but it was a way for kids, like, all ages, all demographics. This is kind of also where, like, freak shows, because I was about to say all bodied, I guess, like, disabled, able-bodied, but I'm like, freak shows aren't really, they're pretty awful. Like, you're just basically seeing someone on display who has a disability, essentially. Like, it's just weird. But yeah, vaudeville, from my understanding, was essentially a combination of different acts. Like, it was essentially a show situation. Like, you'd have some people who would tap dance, who would sing. You'd have the kids that were singers and acrobatics. So it was like a mixture of, like, the circus in a way, because there was those kinds of acts too. And like I said, there was, like, the freak show situation, which I feel like a lot of people might associate freak shows and circus, like, traveling circus acts together. So it's like, yeah, that was definitely a part of vaudeville. And then what else? Of course, you had people doing blackface, because during that time that was seen as comedy, of course. Not to everyone, of course. And also, I feel like the blackface part of it wasn't even, like, at every vaudeville thing. Like, there were definitely famous people who did blackface, and that was what they were known for back in the day. But I don't think everyone who put on, like, a vaudeville show was like, yeah, and we got this blackface act. Because, like I was saying, like, there were actual black acts who got their start in vaudeville and then moved on to, like, underground, like, jazz clubs and that kind of situation, or even doing, like, the sort of showgirls stuff with, like, burlesque and things like that. So it's, like, very interesting to look into, like, or to know about, like, the things that people used to do for entertainment. And sort of thinking about how those kinds of things have still kind of held on just a little bit. Because it's like vaudeville, and then the invention of, like, the cinema and movies kind of took that out a bit. I feel like I'm going with my feelings a lot more, but it's like I'm trying to think, but there's definitely, like, a correlation between, like, getting people in the theater and less people, and I mean, like, movie theater, and less people going to, like, stage production, essentially, because it's like, oh, well, why do I have to spend this much on this when I could go watch this instead? The very dilemma that still exists to this day. It's actually surprising that Broadway... I mean, oh yeah, because there was the mega musicals in the 80s with, like, Phantom of the Opera and all that stuff. So that was getting people back in those seats. I'm like, it really sucks when art is put in this position to also be a profit and profitable, and if it doesn't profit, it's not as appreciated. When I'm like, it should just be more readily available to people. Anyway, so I saw Wicked, and not that I begrudgingly watched it. I definitely didn't. And I'm not going to give my full thoughts on the movie until I see part 2, because they do introduce these, it's not that it's a subplot, it's like an adjacent plot. It's a parallel plot, because the treatment Elphaba gets is amplified and put towards these animals, intelligent animals, and they're turned into the enemy and, like, being hunted down and stuff. And it's like, oh yeah, so their treatment is very much something she can, empathize with, because of how she was treated for being different. But I mean, of course, they're being treated, like, way worse, in that they're being, like, essentially caged away and all this stuff. But anyway, before we even got to that, just being introduced to all the characters, and how I was like, wow, all these people suck. I hate every single person here except for Elphaba. Like, fuck her dad, fuck her mom, fuck Ariana Grande's character, fuck the love interest. All these people are insufferable. I am upset. No, I wasn't that upset, but I was also like, because this movie's like, what, 2 hours? Something like that. 2 hours and 40 minutes. 2 hours and 40 minutes. And I was like, I can't be sitting in this chair upset that these people are annoying, you know? So then I had to step back and be like, okay, so let's remember this is a musical. Usually there are songs to introduce the character and to sort of introduce us to how they are right now. And they will then go through an arc and change into better people. Like, that's just what a musical does. There's a formula. So even though I don't like these people right now, I might hate them later, you know? So definitely telling myself that, I was like, you know what, let's just be here. Let's just take it all in. Let's not take it that seriously. Like, it's fine. I just realized that I was not talking at the mic. Which is crazy. Anyways, so when I did that, I was like, oh, yeah, let's remember. They're just insufferable right now, but they will go through an arc and change. And at least obviously you could be like, well, was Elphaba, the main character, insufferable? No, she wasn't. She tried to be confident against all odds, essentially. And, like, her arc was just realizing that she didn't need anyone else's approval and that she can do magic. She's powerful. She can defy gravity, or whatever the song is called. And I was thinking about that the other day, actually. None of the music really stuck for me, honestly, which I'm like, that's kind of, like, of course I can think of, like, the song Popular, but that's because they were promoting the fuck out of that. So, yeah, and I'm like, I can kind of remember The Wizard and I can kind of remember Defying Gravity, but I was like, what about this musically is not sticking for me? And then I just remembered that, like, I'm not a fan of Ariana Grande. She is talented. I will give her that. She can sing. Everyone in this movie did a fantastic job performing, singing, all of that. I will say that. But I am not a fan of Sopranos. Like, and not the show The Sopranos. I mean, like, Sopranos. Like, I just don't necessarily like high-pitched vocal singing, just in general. Like, that's just what I don't like if I'm listening to music, I don't seek out anything that has any sort of high-pitchedness to me, because it just kind of sounds the same, even if, like, tonally they're doing stuff. But if it's still high-pitched, I'm like, no, it sounds the same to me, you know? So it's like, I think that was the main reason. I mean, it's also another reason that I don't really listen to that many, like, female artists in that way, too, because especially recently, like, a lot of people have been doing, like, the soprano whisper singing voice stuff, and I'm like, ooh, I'm not a fan. Not a fan at all. I like altos. I like some bass, like, deeper voices. I mean, you know, that's, like, one of the reasons that I'm on T. Like, I want a deep voice. I don't like myself having a high-pitched voice. And I literally want to kill myself when I go into my customer service high-pitched voice. I'm like, ugh, stop it. But anyway, so let's do it like normal. Get into this synopsis. Yeah. So, misunderstood because of her green skin, a young woman named Elphaba forges an unlikely but profound friendship with Glinda, a student with an unflinching desire for popularity. Following an encounter with the Wizard of Oz, their relationship soon reaches a crossroad as their lives begin to take very different paths. So the movie starts with Elphaba's death, right? And of course I remember, in like 2 hours and 40 minutes, and I don't remember most of the music. That's kind of wild, actually. Like, literally, I'm like, huh? Like, none of that stuck. My brain was like, no thank you, actually. I mean, I had to black out when, what's his name? The love interest. Was singing and dancing in the library and fucking dancing on top of books. I was like, you're a terrible person. But then I started thinking about like, oh, if I was writing a bad person, would that be a telltale sign of them being bad for me? Like, oh, you're desecrating literature. I was like, and then that's the worst thing that they do. I'm like, that's actually kind of funny. Like, I literally had to make this more fun for me. Not that the movie wasn't... It was a movie. Like, what is a verb? What's a descriptor? I'm like... There were parts that I knew were comedic, but I couldn't laugh because... You know, like, the comedy was at the surface, but not even shallow, just like right there was all the like things that could be seen as like racial issues, fucking Oz turning into like a fascist state. I'm like, this is too much like real life, honestly. I'm like, y'all are laughing and this fucking teacher just got taken? Like, really? What is funny right now? Although I do know some people laugh because they're nervous or anxious or whatever. So I get that. But I don't know. It's just this movie... I don't know, it wasn't escapism for me, but again, like I said, they introduced stuff, so I do want to see the outcome. I did hear that part 2. I don't know, like, I've heard different things from different sources, and like part 2 isn't as great as part 1. Part 2 is more like the Wizard of Oz, stuff like that. And I'm like, I don't fully know what to expect, but I don't think listening to the album of music will actually give me any context, because I'm like, a lot of the music in musicals anyway is supposed to be like, this character is so overwhelmed and unable to explain themselves that they then break out into song, because song is the only way for them to express themselves better than their actual normal words, right? So like, if I take that information and then try to listen to this album or whatever, I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, this is just most of these. I'm gonna assume that most of these songs are gonna be like the emotional state of these characters, and like, that's not gonna help me know what the fuck the plot is, you know, like, or how this is gonna get resolved. But anyway, Part 2 is coming out next year, quite literally a year from the first movie's release. I feel bad for SpongeBob's former wife. And by SpongeBob, I'm talking about the guy who played live-action SpongeBob on the Broadway musical, and how he's in Wicked, and he was married, and he just had a kid, and Ariana Grande was married too, and they even all went on double dates. And Ariana Grande is now currently with SpongeBob. But yeah, no, I do feel bad for his former wife, because yeah, she's kind of stuck being forced to see all of the advertising and just her face plastered everywhere, and just being reminded of how she lost her husband. And also, not even just that, but to then also have her private life be made so public. Like, that's not great. But I digress. I'm like, you know, hopefully she's doing good. I mean, she is a therapist. I hope she has her own therapist to go through all of this too. But, what else was I gonna say? Oh, somebody joked and was like, Ariana and Cynthia, the person who plays Elphaba, need to do the amazing thing and break up with their significant others to be with each other, because Cynthia also did something similar as Ariana Grande, and like, she's currently married to Lena Waithe, but Lena Waithe was with someone, and Cynthia was like trying to pursue her, and then they broke up, and then now Cynthia and Lena Waithe are together. But Cynthia is not a serial cheater. And then, I don't know. I mean, Ariana Grande literally wrote that song, "Break Up With Your Girlfriend Because I'm Bored." Like, she be bored, bro. She be bored. But yeah, all these people are talented. Oh, I wanted to talk about, okay, so talented. I will say, I was very confused about what kind of school they were supposed to be in, because all of them, except for Elphaba's sister, looked like they were my age, or like in their 30s, because I'm 31, or like late 20s, early 30s. Elphaba's sister was the only one that looked like she was young, early 20s, so could pass for high school. But I was like, what kind of, is it academy? They literally mentioned the full name of the school once, and then just abbreviated to Shiz. Welcome to Shiz. And I'm like, oh, this is so 2006. Or whenever Wicked, the musical, came out. It is based on a book. I think the book gets a lot darker or something, and it's a lot more sexual, I guess. I don't know. I saw some excerpt and I was like, oh, that's weird. Okay, so that was one point. And then another point was, I quite literally hate lens flares. Like, with a passion. And it's so funny, too, to go from Wicked to then Nosferatu. And before Nosferatu even showed up, there was a trailer for some movie, I think it was called Black Bag or something, with Cate Blanchett and Michael Fassbender. Kind of looked like Mr. and Mrs. Smith, but like less adultery, I guess. But lots of lens flare. And I'm like, just put a fucking Nutri-Density filter over your fucking camera or something. Control the light. If you're outside, like, if this is a sound fucking stage, which Wicked was, if this is a sound fucking stage and you're creating all the light and you're trying to make it look natural, that means you're intentionally adding a fucking lens flare. Use a fucking Nutri-Density filter and cut some of that shit out. And then it'll still look fucking natural. Like, Nosferatu was a gorgeous fucking movie. And I wasn't getting hit with lens flares because Robert Eggers has an aesthetic that he enjoys and he knows what to ask for from his cinematographer. I would need to look into that, and I'll talk about it next time about who he works with, because I'm like, that movie was fucking gorgeous. And it kind of, some of it was also feeling like, some of the backgrounds felt more like matte paintings, and I think there was like a 3D element to some of it, so it could have been like digital matte paintings instead of like painted. But I mean, either way, it was gorgeous. Like, I am seeing the night sky, it is daytime sometimes, and I'm not getting these fucking lens flares and blurry background shit that Wicked was doing. I wasn't like some people were definitely upset even before the movie Wicked came out, that, oh, doesn't look that colorful, like, it's supposed to be in Wizard of Oz, why does it look like this? And if I'm like thinking about it within the context of the movie, it's like, you get Elphaba at her low points, so it's colorful, but not really, because she's gaining her freedom, but she's not fully, confident and stuff. So it makes sense that in the beginning it's a little dusty, not super saturated, just like there, because then when she actually makes it to Oz, that's when we get this like way more vibrant and colorfulness, because she's way more confident. She's about to get what she wants and everything like that. So if I think of it in that way within the context of like what's going on in the movie, I understand the reasoning behind, like, the way they lit it, minus the lens flares, because I'm like, I fucking hate lens flares. And then another thing that happened was sometimes they were breaking a song and there's like a dance number. I'm like, okay, cool, dancing. And then I couldn't follow what was happening. I was like, okay, so now we're on a crowd shot, and I'm trying to look at one guy, and then now you're moving on to something else, and I'm like, I want to watch the choreography, please. Like, back up. He was they kept focusing on individuals, and then throwing in some crowd shots, so it was just, like, really jarring for me, especially the Oz scene. Like, it was way, like, I could pay attention to it more when it was just, like, focused on, like, it was an individual song, right? Like Popular was one. The Wizard and I was one. Like, those were the stronger shot musical parts. None of the none of the, like, stuff that involved groups of people were shot as well. And again, this is why I was, like, getting into Bob Fosse, because he was a choreographer, like, on Broadway. And then he got into film. And then he went so far as to, understand cameras and directing and, how to compose a shot and all this stuff. So more people need to go to the school of Bob Fosse and recording performances, because he really had it down. He truly did. But yeah, I'm like, those are my complaints. Like, I did feel myself wanting to get, like, super, super political with Wicked, and I'm like, you know what? It's just not worth it. I don't want to work myself up over a movie that I don't even really care that much about, And again, I want to see the second part just to both see the conclusion to the story and see how things play out, because I'm like, are they going to sweep this under the rug? I mean, this seems like a really big catalyst for why she becomes the Wicked Witch and all this stuff. But maybe I'll talk more about that next time. I'm tired, so I'm going to just gush about Nosferatu. But yeah, I went to see Nosferatu with my friend. We went on Christmas, because theaters are open every single day. And I used to work at the theater. And I also worked on Christmas at the theater. It was so weird selling tickets to people on Christmas, because people would be like, oh, sorry you have to work. Merry Christmas, though. And I'm like, you could just not show up, and then I wouldn't have to work, actually. Like, you're the reason. No, but I was way more, like, negative and cynical back in the day. And I also I didn't celebrate Christmas, but not that I had a hate for Christmas. I just don't like how Christmas kind of just takes over everything else. And, like, I think it's just with white people. Like, I feel like white people feel entitled to hearing Merry Christmas. Like, if they say Merry Christmas, they want to hear it back. Otherwise, there's a war on Christmas or whatever. I don't know. I'm just... Anyway, Nosferatu. Visually stunning. Like, Robert Egert's, that man can do suspense. This is only, like, his 4th movie, which is crazy. I do kind of want him to get back into doing, like, original ideas, because, like, The Lighthouse was just so fucking good. And that also had Willem Big Dick Dafoe. Anyway, to get into Nosferatu. In the 1830s, estate agent Thomas Hutter travels to Transylvania for a fateful meeting with Count Orlok, a prospective client. In his absence, Hutter's new bride, Ellen, is left under the care of their friends Frederick and Anna Harding. Plagued by horrific visions and an increasing sense of dread, Ellen soon encounters an evil force that's far beyond her control. So, in the movie, we definitely get that Ellen is kind of haunted by something. Like, we see her sort of having this, like, seizure in the very beginning, which is one of my not favorite shots. I'm like, I feel like they could have did that a little differently. And there's maybe, like, 1 or 2 shots in the movie that I'm like, not that big of a fan of. Like, I feel like they could have done more of a close up here, or I don't know, something different. But so with Nosferatu, it is basically Bram Stoker's Dracula, but the original 1922 movie couldn't get the copyright to Bram Stoker's Dracula, and I think, yeah, like his estate at the time was like, hell to no, we're gonna shut this shit down, we're gonna burn and like just destroy this movie. So then they named it Nosferatu and, you know, tried to change it up a little bit, so they wouldn't get sued or anything like that. Yeah, so that's where Nosferatu comes from. It's, you know, basically Dracula. And watching this movie, because I have read Dracula like forever ago, but it has the same sort of like slow pacing that book does. And in general, like the pacing kind of felt like how old horror movies like back in the day would do. Like movies nowadays, especially like slashers, it's definitely all about like jump cuts and jump scares and like the sudden sounds and the people around the corner and all this stuff. So I feel like to get a modern audience to sort of accept this movie would probably be a little bit harder to do. But I mean, it's kind of a stacked cast too, though. Like Willem Dafoe, Bill Skarsgård is playing the creature, of course. I don't know how he keeps playing creatures. It's not like he's ugly. Or is he? Also, oh my god, the budget was only $50 million, which is insane to me. I'm like, this movie is gorgeous, and you only spent that much when fucking all these other movies will be like $100 million, $150 million, you know? And I'm like, they did such a good job. But like, yeah, so Nicholas Hoult is playing he's playing Thomas. Again, Willem Dafoe is in this. Aaron Taylor Johnson is playing the friend, and our main girl is played by Lily Rose Depp, and she is acting her ass off in this movie. Like, there's so much like physical acting that she has to do, and I definitely have to look into the behind the scenes. Again, this is very like low tech of me, but she is acting, and also unrecognizable, at least to me, because I'm like, the black hair, the accent, in general, the way she's acting in this movie, I'm like, she's so very different, because I kind of forgot that she was even in The Idol that came out like last year, that fucking Sam Levinson The Weeknd fucking show or whatever. And yeah, she's like Johnny Depp's daughter or whatever. But yeah, no, she was acting. But yeah, the movie's slow paced. I missed any hype that was like, oh, this is the scariest movie of the year. I'm like, no, this isn't scary. It's suspenseful for sure. There is gore for sure as well, but it's not like super scary. I don't know what else to say. I mean, I definitely enjoyed it. I definitely want to see it again, because I definitely was distracted just by how gorgeous this movie was. Because I think he did shoot it in film. And for me, film just does a really good job of bringing out more contrast, especially depending on how you shoot it. And they shot a lot of the stuff on location. And I'm like, oof, so gorgeous, so gorgeous. I'm not saying that because the movie itself wasn't good, because it was a good movie. It is also a long one too, so definitely be prepared for that. Is this a movie you go see in the theaters? I personally would say that, but I'm a cinema girly. I like going to the cinema, but also go on a Tuesday. Get those cheaper tickets at the theater. And if you can, do a matinee. If you can't go on Tuesday. Because again, get these cheaper tickets. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what else to say, because the plot was very much similar to the book in that she's getting plagued by something. I mean, she's fine when she gains a husband, but the husband is sent to a client far off for whatever reason. I'm like, huh? Why? Just come here. Because he's buying like a house or whatever. And then and then what else happens? Yeah, so he gets sent there, and then of course her seizures come back, and her melancholy, as they're calling it, is she's overtaken by it. I'm like, girl, same. And her friend, of course, thinks that, oh, this is because your husband left. And yes, kind of. Like, if anything, he is more of like a physical talisman to ward off the evil that wants to consume her, essentially. That she mistakenly was calling to herself, because they're in like Victorian era or something. I think it's Victorian. Either way, they're in a period of time where anything that's like outside of like Christianity or organized religion would be seen of as like primitive or like blasphemous or whatever. So obviously she's not around people that would be like, oh, this is probably what you're doing, let's stop you from doing that, basically. And then of course later on Willem Dafoe's character gets brought up, and he's very into the occult and was like, no, she's possessed, there's a demon trying to get her. And then, of course, they don't believe it. I mean, she does when she's, like, during the day, she's normal. And then during nighttime, she's, like, going through it, basically. But during the day, she's like, oh, yes, no, this makes so much sense. I understand. And Thomas. We definitely switch back between Thomas and his journey to get to this man, just to get him to sign a piece of paper, and Ellen's struggle with her seizures and possession and stuff. And it's like you could tell with Thomas, he's like, it's like that weird polite society thing of like, well, I don't want to be rude or anything like that. Oh, kind of similar to like in Heretic, where, you know, these Mormon missionaries, like, they know that this isn't really a great situation to be in, like, in the initial beginning of it, but it's impolite for them to just up and leave. They have to, like, sort of dance around just saying we have to go. It's like, oh, or like the fact that they needed another woman in the home to even come into the home, which, I mean, that's a safety issue for sure, because it's like, why would we come in as young women to the home of a single man? You know, like, that's safety. Yeah. But then, of course, he, like, invites them in because, like, oh, it's raining. And, oh, no, I am married. My wife is in the kitchen baking a pie. She wasn't. She doesn't exist. He's not married. The pie smells a candle. This is all in the beginning of the movie. I don't even remember. What was I saying? Anyway, so yeah, Thomas is kind of doing a similar thing in Nosferatu, where he's like in the castle. He's definitely creeped out by this man. At some point, you know, he gets what he needs, which is the signature or whatever, and he's like, I'm just gonna go. I'm gonna go. Let me out, please. And he's like, oh, I don't feel well, but I need to leave. And then Count Orlok is like, oh, it's a bad omen to travel while you're sick. Stay until you feel better. When really he's just gonna trap him there and, like, kill him, basically. Thomas doesn't die, though. Ha, ha, ha. But, of course, we do find out that Thomas's boss is actually a follower of Count Orlok. And so he actually sent him all the way there on purpose. Which is like, haha, I see, you're crazy. Great. Love this. But anyway, I'm like, trying to think. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I thought this would be a shorter episode. It is not. Not really sure what else to say. I did like Nosferatu. I was trying not to be a hater on Wicked, because I felt like I was doing that thing where, like, I was like, oh, everybody loves this, so I'm not going to even try to watch it. But I did watch it, and it was fine. It was fine. It sucks that it got split into 2 movies, and, like, we got 2 hours and 40 minutes. How long is the rest of it? Another 2 hours? Oh my god. But, yeah. I think I'll end it there. New Year's coming. Pretty crazy. 2025. Yeah. I'll see you all in the new year. Bye.